Mirasee.
The thing that I would say, especially for a coach who is trying to feel like they have to have it all together outside and they're not feeling well inside, it will show. It will show in one way, shape, or form. Why? Because those feelings, your thoughts have energy, your emotions have energy. You can feel that as you show up. And sometimes it makes us not want to show up.
Sometimes life hits hard. A strained relationship, a family crisis, the unexpected loss of somebody close. Suddenly, showing up for your business feels impossible. How do you keep going when your heart just isn't in it? I'm Melinda Cohan, and you're listening to Just Between Coaches. I run a business called The Coaches Console, and we're proud to have helped tens of thousands of coaches create profitable and thriving businesses. This is a podcast where we answer burning questions that newer coaches would love to ask a more experienced coach. Today, we're talking about something that most entrepreneurs don't expect to face until it's staring them down. What do you do when personal life challenges throw off your motivation and momentum in business? I've invited a truly extraordinary guest to help us navigate this topic. Dr. Heather Tucker is joining the show today. She is a business and life harmony trainer and founder of Another Level Living. She has helped entrepreneurs transform relationships, master communication, and rise through painful challenges in life and work. She's also certified over 400 life coaches and knows what it takes to keep going when everything feels like it's falling apart. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you for having me. So happy to be here with you today.
I'm excited to have you on the show, and I am excited to talk about this topic. It's one that most people don't actually address. But before we dive in, would you mind sharing your background with our listeners?
Sure. My background is in IT. I got my PhD at 27 in human computer interaction and got my dream job working for the Army at 28. Got to travel all over the world, and there was all this external success. But inside, there was overwhelm, chaos, uncertainty. And it was a lot of stuff that I was seeing that was happening in my community that was like pulling for me to do something about it. You ever felt that call to, like, okay, I could stay at this cushy 6-figure position, or I could hear the call for what my heart is leading for? And I left the Army and went into higher education. And as I was transitioning out of my Army, it's so funny that I wrote this chapter called Married to the Military because I met my husband, the Purple Heart Marine Corps veteran. He did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan and came back with post traumatic stress. And so I became a wife as well as a mom, pretty much to a 1.5-year-old instantly. And it's these things about evolution and changing, like, I'm not necessarily sure what to do. But I knew that there was a calling. I had never heard of coaching. And I went to my first coaching certification training. After the class was over, the teacher had said, only 10% of y'all are actually going to go off and do something with this. And everybody in the class is like, no way, that's not possible. This is the best thing ever. And it was interesting because I was like, I knew I was going to be one of those 10%. But fast forward a couple of years, a couple of babies, chaos, and family, a lot of losses and heaviness and grief. Then I started certifying coaches. And I would say the same statistic and I would get the same response. And it was so interesting because after about 6 months after the class following up with them, I recognized, oh my goodness, what is the issue? What is the thing that is getting in the way? They teach you how to do coaching, but it's the business and mastering the art of coaching and the skill that's essential. But there was also a lot of life challenges that were getting in the way that is hard for people to talk about. Like, a lot of times we're expected to continue to perform and just put our personal life in the pocket. The reality is, if we don't heal what has hurt us in one area of life, it will bleed over into another area. And so I realized, well, one of the biggest things that was a challenge was operating with a heavy heart, operating with an overwhelmed mind, and that takes a toll on the body. But here's the thing, when there is a healed heart and a renewed mind, we become unstoppable. This is why I love to support entrepreneurs in winning their inner world to master their outer world and increase their calm, confidence, and cash flow. A lot of us as coaches were these overgivers, but it can be this detriment to where we are not able to fill our cup or stay full. The secret is giving from your overflow. Instead of where back in the day it was like almost 100% for everybody else and Heather's last. Now it's like Heather is first. Everyone else also feels like they're first because I give them from my overflow. And there's this beautiful exchange of giving and receiving. And that's what creates harmony and prosperity for all.
Wow, big picture is awesome. I want to unpack a few things that you said
Okay,
there.
let's do it.
One of the things that you talked about, winning your inner world so you can master your outer world. And that is one of the universal truths that I believe. Outer world follows inner world. Most human beings have that backwards. When I get the outer world in place, then I'll feel a certain way. They're living by that when then thinking and feeling, and it puts us in that constant state of overgiving, that perpetual pursuit. And so I love this concept. And the other thing I really love is that you call it life business harmony.
So here's the secret with that, right? So I remember when I was working in the government, I wanted this work life balance. But the reality is that makes us feel like things have to be equal, right?
Yeah.
Balance is like it has to be equal amount of work hard, play hard. It doesn't always happen that way. How do we pivot when things go unexpected, right? Like, for example, maybe you have to pick up your child from daycare, or you have to do something where, oh, you had this plan. How does it mess up your inner world? Are you freaked out? Are you frustrated? You're like, okay, cool. I'm just going to pivot and transition. It's like going with the wind and the rhythm of life as compared to fighting against it. And the reason why we talk about harmony is because it's about creating that peace on all sides. There's going to be fluidity, there's going to be changes, evolution. Even our business is an evolution. But a lot of times we hold on to what was.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gets in the way of really being able to embrace what is and have that expanded and beautiful vision for the future. Walking into our destiny as compared to running and freaking out. A lot of times, external situations cause us to be in great fear that can lead to procrastination, paralysis, overwhelm, and stuckness, and the list goes on and on. But we want to be able to learn how to redefine fear. So fear usually stands for forget everything and run, or false evidence appearing real. A lot of times, the bigger the battles, the bigger the things we're called to face. We want to forget about forgetting everything and running, because a lot of times, if we rely on our own mind, our own patterns, and operating out of those heart wounds, we will destroy the very thing that God is trying to bless us with. So let's shift it to facing everything and rising so that we can feel everything and relax.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The word balance. It's interesting. You talked about work life balance. When I was in my corporate career, that was the thing. And what happened for me, that triggered perfectionism. It's like, ooh, I better get it perfect or it's going to be out of balance and bad things are going to happen. So I strived for that perfection. I don't like work life balance. I don't think it's possible to be in balance because of the ebb and flow. But that word harmony gives me permission to take a deep breath, go with the flow, know that things sometimes are going to be great, sometimes are going to be bad. This area of my life might be great, but this one might be challenging. And that's natural. It's not that I'm doing things wrong or going to fail. I love the permission that comes with the word harmony.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I'm so glad you share that, because a lot of times we're trained or hardwired to operate in perfectionism. But
Yeah.
perfectionism is paralysis, poverty, procrastination. It's all of the P words that I could think of that are just not, and
Yeah.
we're called for prosperity,
Yeah.
right? We got all these things to do on our to-do list. And then we'll have all these things and eventually we can be. But the reality is the best and most prosperous and most freedom for all and successful happiness, joy, and all of the fruits of the spirit is when we're stepping into all that we're called to be. And then that will
Yes.
allow us to do everything we're called to do. And then having becomes this beautiful natural byproduct.
And you talked about, I think the way you said it was the bigger the battles, the bigger things we're called to face. What I've experienced, the bigger the vision, the bigger the dream, the bigger things we're called to face, because in facing those things, it's letting the universe know I'm serious about this. And the universe is like, okay, demonstrate that. I need to make sure you are the person you need to be for this vision to be a reality. And this challenge, situation, life circumstance is going to help make sure you are becoming who you need to be. And now, whatever that challenge is, big T trauma, little t trauma, big C challenge, now it's not happening to me and I'm not in victim mode, but it's happening for me and I'm in empowered mode.
Correct. It's from feeling like that trapped and limited. Like, oh my goodness, I can't do this, to that freedom and expansion and beauty. It's like everything is happening for you. Okay, how do I navigate this? How do I see the bigger picture, the truth or the circumstance or the situation, right? Being able to stay focused on the mission and calling. That's why I love talking about healing the past, the mind, body, heart, and soul, because then you're able to see the truth for what it is. And what I had said before was, the bigger the challenges, the bigger the obstacles, the bigger the battles that you've gone through, even before you were even aware of the amazingness that you are, the greater your calling is. It's something that's just so profound. So it's part about being able to embrace the power of the journey. The power is the process, and the progress is not this final destination. I can't tell you how many times I hear, like, oh, this business should have already been done by now. Your frustration is actually creating more frustration. So release the frustration and step into the love and the divinity and the beauty that you are.
Yeah.
Then there's no imposter syndrome, no conflict. It's what you see is what you get and more.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to live that way.
When coaches, they start their business, all kinds of things start happening. And I see that as well. And it's not very far into their journey. I hear from our students, oh, life is happening. It could be disguised as a lot of different things. A family member got sick, somebody went to the hospital, something happened with their house, or now they've got to move. But that phrase, life happens, the biggest place to start as a business owner to understand how to navigate challenges, those things, it's not life happening to us, it's life happening for us. Where things get fuzzy is from an either or thinking. Either I do my business or attend to this family situation or this challenge or whatever it is. But the successful students still face big challenges, but they come at it from a both and. Okay, that is happening and I have to attend it, and my business is still a priority. How do I navigate both right now? That question gets them into a very different energy in the inner world, and their outer world is easier to navigate.
Wow, this is such a powerful part that you mentioned. And a lot of this is the pattern of the fixed mindset, right? This is where we have unconscious patterns that we tend to run. So a lot of times it's like this or that. You want this or that. And sometimes we're taught that way growing up. Like, you want an apple or orange, give them a couple of options so they can pick. It can be both. I can be successful in my business and do this. We're doing our business, we're rising, something happens, a life situation. Then there's a drop down in the energy. And then you're trying to come back up again. And then we're coming back up, and then there's another drop down. And we're coming back up and we're dropping down. Doing that, bouncing back over and over again, actually takes the joy and the fun and the passion out of the business. That also makes it not wanting us to do it, right? Or is we're operating with this heavy heart. So how do we shift that? First of all, is recognizing that it is faith over fear. Life is going to continue to happen. It's about being comfortable even in the uncomfortable. That requires taking the pressure off the mind too, so we can have this total exponential acceleration. Regardless of something's happening, okay, cool, I recognize this is happening. I can be able to attend to that as well as attend to my business and my success. A lot of that has to do with even expanding, recognizing that you're only one person. So even expanding your team, even expanding your support, these are some of the things that can help with that. But that part about this or that, I remember that so well, especially when my husband would have these PTSD triggers, and all of a sudden the enemy, right? And it's like, oh my goodness, should I stay or should I go? And I'm like, well, those are only two options. No, I can stay, I can fight and take flight, continue to be unconditional love and aloha, and still be of service to myself and my family. It can feel like a tug of war in the mind. For example, you probably have heard, part of me wants to do this and part of me wants to do that. That is a literal fragment inside the mind that is calling for wholeness. The reality of the situation is The more that we have flexibility in our thinking and our feeling, the more successful we will become in this calling. Because your tests, the trials and tribulations that we go through, are our greatest testimonies.
What do you think are some of the common, typical life challenges that knocks coaches and entrepreneurs off track the most?
Oh, first is loss, death. Fear of death, worry of death, loss of a loved one is probably hands down the number one thing. I used to be so fearful of death and losing someone. Like one of the stories that I usually share, especially on this journey of entrepreneurship, is my grandfather, the most successful entrepreneur in my town. He was murdered when I was 5. And it was like, you better not put yourself out there because something could happen. But if I had held on to those beliefs, I would not have been successful as I am now. Like, oh my goodness, I love being seen, heard, I felt. One of the best things that helped me get peace with that, especially because we've had a lot of caregiving moments, we've had a lot of losses. And what I learned is death is really a transition. This is why it's also so important to be creating more time, money, and emotional freedom to be present with your loved ones. The other big one is damaged relationships. This dynamic of two people, we think everyone should think like we do. The reality, there are no two minds that are alike, no two hearts that are alike. And when we're able to really have that clarity of what's going on in our mind, our heart space, our body, we can actually see at a deeper level what's going on in the heart space and mindsets and stuff of other people. For
Yeah.
business, for life, for anything. When you win your inner world, you create your own solid foundation. You create your own groundedness. You're able to enjoy what is within your control and let go of what is in the control of God and others. It's about honoring self and others equally. We can only process so much information. We try to do all these different things and are spread thin. We end up doing half stuff. I love having a support, having a team, an amazing army around you, not just in your business. Don't go to battle alone. Have support in your home. Get a cleaning lady, a nanny, right? Like it is so beautiful because the biggest trick is that we think that we have to do it all on our own. That is 100% not the case.
And it can be your confidants, your friends, your close circle. You don't even have to pay for the community. It can be a combination. I remember many years ago, there was this period of about 18 months. First, my mom died unexpectedly. Few months later, my dad and I get a phone call. My sister's in the hospital. Her organs are shutting down. She's 4 hours away. We couldn't get there fast enough. Fast forward a couple months, my best friend had a house fire, lost everything. And it was just one thing after another. I had a surgery. I had a health situation come up, and I'm like, "Good Lord, what is going on?" There was about an 18-month span where it was just one thing after another after another. And in hindsight, how in the world did I navigate that, and how did the business survive? I could not be present as I usually was. And one of the things that it required me to do in that time frame, I had to adjust my goals. Now, it did not mean that when I adjusted my goals, my revenue goals, or the number of clients we were serving, or what a certain promotion was going to do in that window, it didn't mean that I was giving up or that I wasn't committed or that I was a failure. It meant the landscape has changed. I need to adjust with it so I can keep everything moving. And then once we got through all that, it's like, all right, now let's go back to the goals. And now we can function in this new way. There's this undue pressure that people put on themselves, which triggers even more fear, which triggers even more survival mode, which triggers even more control freakness and push throughness. So I think there's a not only having that community to support us, but having that community to help us to see how to make adjustments because we may not even realize we need to do it or how we can do it.
Melinda, I appreciate you sharing that. We have those seasons, right? How we
Yeah.
navigate those seasons makes a difference. You reminded me of when we have these situations that happen, right? We operate one out of usually three ways. We can become like the speedboat. This is mostly how most people do it, like going full force and then you run out of gas. That's when that burnout or that illness comes. Or we can become like the raft, like this is just an energetic flow. I can't do it. I'm drifting off the sea aimlessly. Or we can become like the sailboat. It's got the rain, it's working with the wind. It will get to its destination. Sometimes it has to pivot and take a course. We have to have that flexibility. When you shared that, it was so beautiful because it reminded me one of the biggest things that created that fear and worry, especially when I was the speedboat, was my husband. He had several widowmaker heart attacks. He almost died 3 times. And it was interesting because as I was doing my business, that was my ding. Oh my goodness, my whole world is crashing, and that's what created this thing. And that part about getting peace with death was so important because I know we're not going to be able to be here forever. That's why I mentioned that was one of the biggest ones that gets in the way.
What do you say to a coach, or how do you approach a coach who you realize is struggling on the inside with some situation that's happened or a challenge that's come up, but they feel like they have to keep it together on the outside?
Oh, I would tell them, if we don't resolve what hurts us inside, it will bleed into everything. Let's resolve these pebbles now before they become big mountains. I facilitate these awesome business breakthrough journeys where we activate all of that stuff that's going on inside in the unconscious mind and the mind. Then we release it, we let it all go. So, therefore, we can get back into that more of a neutral, calm, so we can move forward. It takes time. It's not always instant. We want to be able to allow ourselves to go through the grief process. But the thing that I would say, especially for a coach who is trying to feel like they have to have it all together outside and they're not feeling well inside, it will show. It will show in one way, shape, or form. Why? Because those feelings, your thoughts have energy, your emotions have energy. You can feel that as you show up. And sometimes it makes us not want to show up. It makes us not want to be seen, heard, and felt. And that is one of the biggest disservices because now more than ever, we are called as coaches to be able to shine our full light. The world needs us now, and lives are being lost as a result of us not showing up. Let me just say that it is okay not to be okay. We cannot just stay there.
Yeah, that's it. Feel the feelings fully, just don't set up camp and live there, which is why, it takes a community to help navigate that. So, if you're talking to a coach who feels guilty for slowing down when life gets heavy or challenges start showing up, what do you say to them?
So here's the thing. I remember when I was a kid, I went to the store and I stole a piece of candy and I felt so guilty and I took it back. But here's the thing, guilt is a part of life, right? This is where you want to break free from the guilt because guilt actually will create more of an internal unforgiveness of self, which will even be even more detrimental. So, one of the key secrets on how successful people operate that I share in my communication mastery training is that you're just doing the best you can with the resources available. When you learn better, you do better. Our behaviors can respect and appreciate other people's model of the world even if we don't agree with it. But the biggest thing is you want to make sure you stay true to you. Break free from guilt. Step into forgiveness. Step into self forgiveness and also forgiveness of other people. Create a judgment free zone for ourselves and others.
Yeah, in my book, I talk about this exact topic, and I talk about the opposite of fear is self love, and to go to that place of self love, because in that place, it changes our vantage point, it changes our perspective, it brings us more compassion. We can enter into forgiveness, and that's a big piece of this. What haven't I asked you about this topic that you feel needs to be said that our listeners that you want to make sure they hear?
The biggest takeaway I want to leave you with today is that all challenges have resolution. When there is no enemy or conflict within, nothing externally can touch you. You're able to step into your empowerment and be that aloha love with healthy boundaries, navigating with expression and loving you and your voice, regardless of whether other people don't see your value, you own and honor your value. All damage to the mind, body, heart, and the spirit can be undone because we don't have to have a great past to have a great future. We get to recreate and restore ourselves each and every day.
Wow. Wow, wow. I just want to summarize some of the incredible things we talked about today. The way that you started, most of us are operating with a heavy heart and overwhelmed mind. And we need to get to a place of healed heart and renewed mind so we can show up in our business. That's the secret journey we're on. It looks like building a business, but that's what's going on in that phrase, winning our inner world so we can master our outer world. And you gave us the word harmony to help us imagine the flow we can go with. We talked about the bigger the battles, the bigger things we're called to face, the greater our calling is. And it's the journey of who we need to become, and that we shouldn't see that these are things happening to us, but it's things happening for us, for our evolution, so that we can fulfill our calling. And we talked about when you see a challenge, step out of that either or and get in that both and. And remember, whenever you're feeling whatever it is that's coming your way, it's okay to not be okay. Heather, do you have any parting words?
The last thing I want to say is that now is the time to shine, because coaching is a calling. It's time to live that calling. Be the biggest light. Stay connected. Melinda, you're doing some amazing work here at this podcast. I'm so grateful that you allowed me to share this message. Stay connected. Together we rise. And there's collaboration, co-opetition, working together, unity.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for listening to this episode of Just Between Coaches. Dr. Heather, thank you for this incredible conversation. And you can find out more about Dr. Heather at anotherlevelliving.com. That's anotherlevelliving.com. And of course, the link will be in the show notes. Heather, thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Melinda. I appreciate you.